Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's live webcast, 10 Ways to Drive Killer Results with Sponsored Updates, brought to you by LinkedIn Marketing Solutions. I'm excited to introduce our speakers today, LinkedIn's own Celine Tyler, Senior Product Marketing Manager, and Jamie Pham, Content Marketing Evangelist. Before we get started, I do have a couple housekeeping items. You're all muted by default, so if you have questions you'd like to ask, please enter them into the Q&A box, and we'll address them during the Q&A portion of the presentation. If you'd like to follow along on Twitter, please do so using the hashtag LinkedInContent. And we'd also like to let you know we're, of course, going to be sharing our slides and the recording from today's session with you via email within the next couple days. Finally, please take the time at the end of the webinar to fill out the survey. Your feedback is very valuable to us, and we want to ensure that your webinar experience continues to get better. So now I'm happy to hand it over to our speakers to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. So this is Celine. I'm going to kick us off real quick with our agenda for today. We will be covering three major topics. First off, Jamie will kick us off with content marketing best practices that we've been gathering in the last 2 years since the launch of Sponsored Updates. She will have real-life examples for you guys from brands that are top performers on LinkedIn for real-life inspiration. Then we will talk about campaign management, as it's important to understand all levers you have to improve the performance of your Sponsored Updates. And lastly, we will review some of the top performing Sponsored Updates from this year, and we will break down step by step why they work. Jamie, let me turn it over to you right away to kick us off with content best practices.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody. Jamie Pham here. So in my job, I meet with a lot of companies, a lot of large, mostly mid to large size companies that are using Sponsored Updates for various objectives. And Sponsored Updates are just one of the content marketing tools available on LinkedIn, but if you're looking to reach an audience that's not already following you or part of your newsletter subscription database, Sponsored Updates are one of the most effective ways to do that. Now, Sponsored Updates are appearing in the feed, especially on mobile devices, and it's important to understand that when professionals are coming to LinkedIn, they are looking for content in the feed that is going to inform them on their job, their industry, their career, and to help them be more productive and successful. It's also important to understand what role this plays in the buyer's journey so that you're putting content into the feed that is going to set you up for success. And we'll get into tactical best practices later around the structure of the post and how to optimize for mobile and all of that, but let's start off high level. Now, there are lots of studies on how many pieces of content it actually takes to engage a consumer or a prospect, and from the Google Your Moment of Truth study, we remember that buyers are consuming an average of 10.5 pieces of content on their way to a purchase decision before they're actually ready to make that purchase. There's a study from Demand Gen that says that B2B buyers will specifically consume 2 to 7 pieces of content from a particular vendor before they're ready to talk to a salesperson or make a purchase. So you have anywhere from just a couple of opportunities to reach your prospect with your particular style of content to up to 10 opportunities. Now, it's important also to understand where they're going for that content, because a good content strategy for social is going to tie back to your content strategy for search. The reason being that nearly half of B2B buyers will start their solutions research using search, and 72% will use Google or search at some point in their research stage. So from a content strategy perspective, if, as a social media marketer or a digital marketer or a PR marketer, you're not working closely with your SEO teams to understand what kind of content you're putting into that search experience, you're missing a key component of the stage. Now, the same percentage, 72%, that will use search at some point in the research process will also use social at some point in the research process. And the way that buyers are using social is different. They are browsing existing discussions and connecting with their peers who are looking for recommendations. But increasingly, and especially on LinkedIn, they're connecting with individual thought leaders for opinions and connecting directly with potential vendors on social media, which means that the content that you put into the feed is part of those existing discussions that they're browsing, but it's also looking for thought leadership and even information on how to get in touch with you, which means you really need to have content that is designed to reach people at all stages of their buying process. So how do you take your sponsored updates from good to great or great to outstanding? The first is to understand that the content that you're putting into your organic company page updates and the content that you're putting into your sponsored updates are not necessarily going to be one and the same. Your followers want to hear about the industry. They want to hear about updates on latest news from the company. They're interested in working for your company, or they used to work for your company. They also want to learn more about your company's products and services. So the followers are anything from people who currently work for you, used to work for you, want to work for you, to people that are already doing business with you or already interested in doing business with you, which means that lower funnel, updates on your company, updates on your industry, updates on talent opportunities, that stuff belongs on your organic company page. However, what your non-followers want to hear is a little bit broader. It's actually a lot broader. So we have trending content reports that show what people who are clicking on news in the feed are reading, divided by topic. We've got the high-tech industry on the left-hand side of the screen and the financial advisors segment on the right-hand side of the screen, just to show you that there are some common themes amongst all professionals on LinkedIn when it comes to content that they're engaging with in the feed. Things like recruiting, social media marketing, and employee engagement are always going to be top of mind because it's the native kind of environment on LinkedIn. It's career management and talent management and hiring the best people and keeping the best people and having the best career that you can. But there are also very industry-specific topics that pop up into these reports. These are things like for tech, business intelligence, or SAP, and for financial advisors, things like retirement and investment banking. So it's important to understand that while your followers want to hear about your company, your non-followers don't necessarily want to hear about your company, which means when you are thinking about what to put into the sponsored updates, your editorial calendar into your campaign, you really need to keep in mind that you have to be native with the rest of the feed. And what's happening in the rest of the feed is stuff about the industry, stuff about trends, stuff about career management, things like that. And so you want to keep it informational, helpful, inspirational, not necessarily self-promotional. General rule of thumb, if you can take your sponsored update and put it into a banner or put it into an email promotion, it's probably actually not going to work. You want to make it sound less self-promotional and less like a marketing pitch and more like just a helpful piece of content designed to inform your audience. Then there is the next important thing to keep in mind. Now, I talked to brand marketers who specifically focus on the top of the funnel, and they're doing ungated, non-registered pieces of content like blog posts or industry trends pieces or infographics. That stuff does very, very well. But I also talked to a lot of demand gen marketers that are using sponsored updates to generate leads and sales. And they're exclusively promoting white papers and ebooks and events and looking for things that people will register for. Both people are putting, both kind of banks are putting stuff into the feed that works, but they're also both missing a key piece of the puzzle. You want to be you want your content strategy to align with content for the buyer's journey, which is what this slide is designed to help you understand, which is even as a demand gen marketer, if you are putting gated content into the feed, that's fine. Just make sure that you're also putting ungated stuff into the feed so that people who are not yet ready to engage with your company in that way are still finding value out of stuff that you're putting out there. This is a great example from Hortonworks of a demand gen marketer putting a gated piece of content into the feed that's still designed to be helpful. And this did very, very well. It was one of our top performing sponsored updates from Q2. And they did a couple of things right. First of all, they used targeting effectively. If you're going to be talking about Hadoop and data architecture, you better make sure that you're targeting only people that actually care about such a technical topic. Secondly, they actually took a stance on an issue. So the intro copy says Apache Hadoop didn't disrupt the data center, the data did. And then the third thing that they did was they created a clear call to action, and they made it very clear that what you were going to get by clicking through on their link was a white paper. Most people assume that if you are promoting a white paper, you're going to ask for registration information. So it's not a surprise when you get to the landing page if you're asked to do that. And finally, they didn't say free white paper, they just said white paper, because who pays for a white paper anymore? So if you're promoting gated content and you're promoting it as free, it's unnecessary and it sounds self-promotional. So these are a few really good best practices from Hortonworks on how to actually put lower funnel content into the feed in a way that is compelling. Another key tip that I give to my clients is full funnel content marketing doesn't mean that you have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars creating content for the funnel. You can take one big rock piece of content, one white paper or analyst report or research paper, and just get a lot of mileage out of it. Our own Jason Miller does this very well with our Sophisticated Marketer's Guide reports. He'll do a Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to thought leadership, and it'll be a big 60-page, big rock piece of content that we put a red form in front of. But we're also breaking it out into infographics and blog posts and podcasts and slide shares and webinars and physical books that we hand out at events. And so we're taking one piece of content, taking the same data and the same material, repurposing it 10 different ways so that our audience can engage with it in whatever way they care to engage with it. One piece of content reaches our prospects at every single stage of the funnel in whatever way works for them. And this is how we see great ROI out of our content for the funnel. We don't just do sponsored updates and SEM and paid promotion. We also do a really good job of leveraging our employee network to scale your reach. So this is the power of social media. It's paid, owned, and earned. And that used to mean you had a company page and followers, you ran some sponsored posts, and then you hoped that some of it went viral and got you some earned media. On LinkedIn specifically, because your employees are actually tied to your company in a very obvious and meaningful way, getting your employees to share your content is good for their professional brand and giving them subject matter expertise. It's good for your company brand, and it gives you free organic reach because your employee networks are exponentially larger than your company's own follower network on LinkedIn. So this is kind of the next wave of social content. Beyond sponsored updates, it's getting your employees to share that same content that you're putting money behind to sponsor and get traction on, getting that into the hands of employees in a way that's easy for them to share it out with their networks in a meaningful way. From a copy perspective, the thing about content marketing and sponsored updates in particular is you can have a really great piece of content and just do a really kind of mediocre job promoting it in the feed and not get a lot of traction out of it, which is why we're talking about the ROI of sponsored updates today, because small tweaks can make a big difference in the amount of traction you see on a particular post or a particular piece of content. You're going to put money behind this, so you may as well test out different ways to make sure that that sponsored update is as compelling as possible. There are a few perspectives that tend to work well from a copy perspective. Helpful and informational, right, putting a statistic into the headline or explaining how this particular piece of content is designed to help your target audience achieve success. There's conversational because it is social media, writing from a first person or a third person instead of saying, I don't know, if you're Pepsi, instead of saying Pepsi is helping people around the world, it's saying we are helping people around the world like you. It's kind of changing the tone of the copy and making it more social and conversational, and it sounds a lot less like marketing in that way. There's also using conversations in a meaningful way, not just rhetorical question, but actually asking a question and encouraging people to comment on the post. And then finally, the cliffhanger, telling your audience just enough to pique their interest, but not so much that they aren't compelled to learn more. This is a fine balance. Now, with sponsored updates, and Celine's going to tell you this later, you want to keep your copy short. So it's really hard to give them something that's compelling enough to get their attention. And yet it's actually really hard to do that in a short piece of copy. So putting a statistic into the headline or the intro copy, or even just putting a really bold statement in there in order to get people to click through is a good best practice. In the example that we show here on the screen from Athena Health, the intro copy simply says, I'm out, advice for executives looking to step down. Number 6, optimize your content for mobile. Look, the vast majority of engagement from sponsored updates happens on mobile devices. And for best mobile performance, you need to make sure that your intro copy is fewer than 150 characters, or you can eliminate it altogether. So in this example from Swerve, the intro copy is short, there is a clickable URL in it, and then the image and the title are compelling enough to get people's attention in the news feed. And then, of course, make sure your landing page is optimized for mobile devices. If you are taking people to a page that is going to load very slowly, that is not mobile optimized, that has 7 form fields to fill out, and there's no easy way to do that, your bounce rates are going to be high and you're going to be wasting a lot of your promotional dollars. Images are the best way to drive engagement in the feed, whether on desktop or on mobile device. So in this example from AIG, they're using what we simply call a rich media image post, which means they're actually attaching a large format image or infographic instead of just pulling in a thumbnail from the URL. These do tend to get higher engagement rates amongst most audiences on LinkedIn. We do provide a link to publish specs in here, so make sure that when you are getting ready to upload that image that the file type is right and the ratios are okay. And then make sure that the image actually adds context to the content. Most companies, Think with Google does a really good job of this. In this example from AIG, this is really great. It's not just an image for the sake of sticking a large image in the feed. It's an image that's designed to add context to the post and also provide a statistic. It's a really great way to get that quick engagement and to hook people in to learn more. They also include a clickable URL in the intro copy. Test and improve performance with direct sponsored content. A/B testing is key. I can't tell you how many clients that I meet with are saying that they don't have the bandwidth to do this, and yet the increase in ROI and click-through rate and engagement rate and conversions can be so drastic that you really can't afford not to do it anymore. Direct sponsored content is LinkedIn's dark posting. It allows you to put stuff into the sponsored news feed without having it appear on the company page. And so a great use case for that is A/B testing your copy, your image, your title, etc. Now, when you're going to A/B test, do make sure that you are only testing one thing at a time. Don't change the intro copy and the image and the title, because then when you see the better performing post, you can't actually nail down which of the 3 changes made the biggest impact. But you can have many variations of the same ad running in a campaign at any given time. So try testing 2 to 3 different versions of an intro copy, and it only takes 1,000 to 2,000 impressions to get a meaningful piece of data around it. So you don't have to spend a lot of money testing something that's not performing as well, but you can get a big upside. So in this example from Citi, perfect example of great A/B testing. The image and the title and the meta copy are exactly the same. And all they did was change one word in the intro copy. And instead of what's the biggest misconception you've heard about starting your own business, they said entrepreneurs. What's the biggest misconception you've heard about starting your own business? Now, it might feel a little bit cheesy to actually call out the audience in your intro copy, but if you're scrolling through a busy news feed and you see something that says entrepreneurs or marketing professionals, and it's very clear that that post is designed for you, it's going to catch your engagement a lot better. So they saw a huge lift in click-through rate by just adding this one word into their intro copy. And then finally, especially when it comes to mobile optimization and thinking about time of day and all those types of questions that I tend to get a lot, just understand, and this is probably something that people don't necessarily think is true right away, but we do research around how people consume professional content. We did an updated version of our Mindset Divide research last year and found that 76% of the respondents said that they consume professional content at home, and only 47% said that they do it at work. So those desktop 9 to 5 hours are only reaching half of your audience. If you want to get the majority of your audience, you're probably going to want to make sure that you're catching them on their mobile and tablet devices while they're at home or on their commute nights and weekends. When they actually have time. If you're going to put a big research paper or a big analyst report or a big white paper into the feed, you want to make sure that you're getting it in front of people when they actually have time to download and browse through it. So those nights and that night and weekend traffic is going to become really important. Even though the volume of traffic to the site might dip a little bit over the weekend, the engagement rates do tend to go up. So make sure that your campaigns are always on and that you're not missing an opportunity to engage people when they come to LinkedIn. And then finally, we mentioned that 72% of professionals will actually use social media for a B2B purchase decision based on last year's study. But 64% of those said that winning content from a vendor had a significant impact on their decision. So again, if you're going to be reaching people who are going to an average of 10 different sources to research a solution, you want to make sure that your content stands out amongst those 10 different sources. That means that it has to be valuable, and it has to have a unique point of view, and it has to be in a format that they're ready to engage with at any step in the decision. So it has to be always on, it has to be content for the buyer's journey, it has to be available in different formats, and it needs to kind of be always on and never be dark. And then finally, one of the biggest mistakes that I see marketers make on LinkedIn, when they get into the tool and they start to see all the different targeting options that are available, they get really excited and they start really narrowing down on a very, very small specific niche audience that they're going after based on the data that's available on LinkedIn. And that tends to be a mistake because, number one, if you're going to put effort into a piece of content, into a campaign, you need to make sure that it scales. Number two, you might find that this audience that you're targeting will show signs of fatigue after 2 to 3 months, even on a very, very well-performing piece of content. So you want to make sure that you are expanding it to audiences that will be interested but may not fit the exact criteria that you're searching for. So a good example of this is, say you're trying to reach software developers and you're using job title targeting. There are lots of software developers that call themselves different things and have different skill sets and participate in LinkedIn in different ways. So we have an audience expansion function that will help you reach all those people that do what software developers do, but that may not call themselves software developers, if that makes sense. So it's worth checking out in the Campaign Manager, trying the audience expansion feature, and letting our relevancy algorithms find people that are kind of within your segment and interested in your content. In the deck, and you will get this deck and the recording of the webinar afterwards, there is a best practices cheat sheet around optimizing content, managing the updates, and optimizing the visuals for LinkedIn. So make sure that you download this when it comes through in your inbox. Now I'm going to turn it over to Celine to talk about campaign setup tips and tricks for getting the most out of your sponsored updates.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie. So now let's talk about all the levers you have to set your campaigns up for success. So at a high level, you have 4 levers to optimize your campaigns. You can test and revise your content based on the best practices, which we already covered. But I also want to cover the other 3 buckets in this presentation, looking at how to optimally allocate budget to audiences, understand how you can bid smarter, and enhance your targeting strategy. Let's dive deeper. All right, so let's start off with content and why it's so important. Good content can literally save you money. So that's why it's really important to dig deep into the best practices that we shared. And as Jamie said, you might have a really good piece of content, but it could be the copy that's holding you back from good click-through rate. At LinkedIn, we want to ensure that our members receive the most relevant content to create a win-win situation for both you guys as the advertisers and then for the member, so that the member sees the most relevant content, is engaged, and you are able to reach the most engaged audience. So when you're competing in the sponsored updates auction, we will take both your bid and your relevance to that target audience into consideration when we're determining who's the winner for that impression. Based on this logic, the more you can improve your relevance, and therefore a good gauge of that is your click-through rate, the less you need to bid to win the auction. So the higher your click-through rate, essentially the lower you can bid to win that impression. And that is why it's so critical to focus on presenting your content in the best possible way. We hope that the best practices on content that we covered so far will help you with this process. Next up is bidding. So let's understand how bidding works. Since this is a very savvy audience, I'm not going to dive too deep into this content, but I will leave you with a major takeaway. As you know, we have two pricing models, CPM and CPC. Choose the bidding model that fits your campaign objective. If you're looking to reach your audience with your message on LinkedIn, paying by impressions makes the most sense. If you're driving traffic to your site, make sure you're only paying for clicks. And remember that this is a second price auction, so you do not pay what you bid. You only pay a penny over the second highest bid. Make sure when you're thinking about your bid, do not think about winning the auction, but just think about your willingness to pay for that audience, and then you will hopefully get lower than what your willingness to pay is, depending on how competitive the auction is. And the other tip is on audience and shifting budgets around to improve your performance and making sure that you're spending your budget in the wisest way. We highly recommend, as I said earlier, setting up your campaigns based on your target audience, not necessarily around the content themes or campaign flights, etc. This is how we manage our campaigns internally at LinkedIn and for our clients within our ad operations team. And let's talk about why. It provides great transparency into which audiences are receiving your content well, as you see in the example above. So in this example, there's one campaign that is targeted at directors, the other one is on IT professionals, and if you look, let's say your goal was click-through rate, you take a look and you see that one has a better click-through rate than the other, and you can shift your budgets around and manage your budget effectively on the audience that receives your content well. All right.
Sorry, Celine, our slide is getting
No worries.
I've not tuned you out. We are just having a transition issue.
No worries. All right. And lastly, out of all the 4 levers we talked about, let's talk about targeting best practices. I always want to talk about the fact that when you're targeting run-of professionals, that doesn't mean you don't have any targeting. It means you're targeting everybody, and that could mean CXOs as well. So you could be targeting the C-suite when you're doing run-of professionals. So that's an important takeaway in itself. And in general, we recommend starting as broad as possible, not to say that you need to target everybody in the U.S., so definitely think about some parameters, but as Jamie said earlier, starting broad is really important so that you can understand what audiences are more receptive to your message using the Campaign Manager reporting tools. And then let our algorithms optimize for you. So as we said earlier, if you pick a CPC campaign, cost per click campaign, we will optimize for the types of members who engage and click the most. And for a CPM campaign, we will optimize delivery for your target audience. So as one might say, let the robots do the work for you. You don't have to, you can take the guesswork out of it, and our algorithm will pick up on what's performing well. And then you can start shifting your budgets around, narrowing down your target audience to, which audience works well. So starting as broadly as possible and learning from your first few days and then starting to get narrow is a better strategy than starting with narrow and then seeing if it works or not. It actually will allow you to utilize your budgets better. And now let's pull it all together by looking at some content and analyzing what best practices we see. All right. Okay, so let's start with Host Analytics. Yeah, there we go. Host Analytics is known for its financial intelligence platform, and they're doing a great job sharing useful facts with their target audience. So let's break down all the components of this piece of content, starting with the image. I just love the image to start with. I think starting with a meme and, and adding some humor into such a, topic that could be dry is such a great way to engage the audience. We do not have a lot of memes on LinkedIn, so this clever use of a meme allows Host Analytics to stand out with humor. And then let's talk about the title of the article, 9 Surprising Stats About the CFO Role. 9 surprising stats clearly show that this will be a short, snackable content, and those types of easily consumable content when we're busy is a great way to get high engagement. And adding surprising, the word surprising, as an element of exclusivity. Exclusive insights from a brand boosts CTR as the member is expecting to learn new insights from that brand. And the intro copy, which is the part that says transforming finance is hard, works really well with mobile, as we covered earlier, and has an upbeat positive message. Transforming finance doesn't have to be hard. The description picks up on the hook of the intro copy too, and leaves a bit of a cliffhanger, which is another concept we already talked about. It's clear that they spoke with a CFO, got some exclusive insights. Now the reader is intrigued to learn more. All right, and next update is from Cybersecurity Nexus. Their certification program for cybersecurity professionals. I really love this example personally because it shows that highly engaging content doesn't have to be on broad recruiting or professional related content. Niche topics, when presented to the right audience, actually does really well. So let's talk about why this update was successful. Sharing some facts in the intro, again, this is something Jamie already talked about, but wanted to kind of show you guys specific examples on how you can do this, is a great way to start providing value to the reader right away. Sets expectation with the target audience that the content will be about these useful facts, and they can click to learn more. And another thing that they're doing is, while they're sharing their research findings with their audience, this can be very dense information. So adding an infographic has 2 major benefits that it provides for the engagement rate for this content. It's a great way to summarize the data in an easily digestible way, but the large image, as we talked about earlier, can also help stand out in the feed. And our next one is from American Express. So American Express is actually one of our top sponsored updates marketers who gets it right, I want to say, every time. They are usually on our top sponsored updates list every quarter. They're a good one to watch. So if you go to their company page and take a look at what they're doing, I would highly recommend doing that. And starting off with a common theme among successful updates, which Jamie also talked about earlier, content that offers advice on how to be more successful gets high engagement. So this is juxtaposed against the previous example of really niche content. When you're helping professionals be more successful, that's what people come to LinkedIn to do. So that is enhancing the native experience of LinkedIn. One thing to note here is how American Express eliminated the intro. Keeping the intro short, under 150 characters, or eliminating altogether, which we see in this example, can really boost your click-through rate. But make sure your headline is really punchy. So the 5 things successful people do that others don't, you need to make sure that the headline there is really pulling its weight, so that when you're eliminating the copy, you're not losing the meaning or the value proposition. And another thing to note, which we've seen earlier, is 5 things. These types of snackable lists perform really well. The reader knows that it's short and snackable, and if they click, they can read it really quickly. All right, and the next one is from VistaView Solutions. They're a business management services company focused on energy solutions industry, and talking about the most relevant image and most capturing image. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. Again, underlying that relevant and well-represented content is key to success. Another example where there's very specific content to the industry and to the target audience, not just generic career advice. An effective targeting strategy is key in ensuring that niche content meets the right audience, which is some of the best practices we already talked about. 7 deadly sins, similar to previous examples, quick and easy upper funnel content that gets high engagement rates. The intro conveys the value prop of the content very clearly. It's written with the idea of helping the target customer in mind. Making money is not always the problem. Well, usually it's keeping more of what you make. So it's right away you know what the content is going to be about. And the description also echoes this message and ends with, again, that concept of a cliffhanger, making the reader want to click to learn more. So one thing to be careful of is I see a lot of examples where the description part, the part that starts with hundreds of oil field services, etc., have such great and in-depth description that I almost feel like I read and understood the gist of the content, so I don't feel compelled to click, which could be one strategy if you're really focused on upper funnel content and you're really focused on making sure that people associate your ideas with your brand. But if you're trying to drive website traffic and engagement on your website, you want to think about that cliffhanger strategy and giving the reader just enough, but not revealing more than what they need, and that will compel them to click through. And this example we slightly started touching upon, which was our cliffhanger example. Athena Health is a cloud-based healthcare technology solution company for electronic health records, revenue management, etc. Again, they picked a really great topic that resonates well on LinkedIn, career advice that's largely relevant and engaging on our platform. Thought leadership pieces get a lot of engagement. And they also make the content pop with a concise and compelling introduction and title. This is a great click tease cliffhanger example. It starts getting the reader hooked just enough, but not reveal too much, and cuts off literally with a ... All right, so just wanted to kind of let you guys know that for more best practices, case studies, details about sponsored updates, specs, etc., you can check out our website, marketing.linkedin.com. And with that, we are going to open it up for questions.
Great. So Celine and I will both be fielding questions coming in through the Q&A box within WebEx. And the first question that I will address is from Ole, is how do you best reach different language groups when you cannot use geography as a target? Well, geography is a targeting option within the Sponsored Updates Campaign Manager, but language targeting is also an option. So you can language target both with your organic updates to your company page, but also with sponsored updates. And so native language targeting is easy. You can do it through geography or language selection, either one, but those are both targeting options within the Sponsored Updates tool.
Awesome, thank you. I am going to take another question from Ole that's about how can score be calculated for dark posts, so direct sponsored content. It is actually the same way. So you can look at the relevancy of your content, and I'm hoping this is what you're asking, and if not, please follow up with the next question. Basically, sponsored updates and dark posting or direct sponsored content are treated exactly the same way. So your click-through rate will be a good indication as to how relevant your content is to your target audience.
And then there was another question from him as well, which is if you make a targeted update from your company profile, will sponsoring it still respect the targeting, or will the ad target overwrite that selection? Neither. So whatever you have done with your organic targeting does not automatically carry over when you create a sponsored update out of it. When you create the sponsored update, you have to select a new campaign to target that update into. And that's why dividing up your sponsored updates campaigns based on the audience that you're trying to reach is another best practice, because it allows you to very easily select the audience that you want to target for the sponsored update portion. Similarly, when you sponsor it and you create a new target audience for the sponsored post, that does not override the organic targeting that you have selected on the company page. They are completely different targeting strategies and systems, and one will not overwrite the other or transfer over to the other one automatically.
Awesome. And I'm going to take one from who I assume is my fellow Turkish citizen, Deniz. And the question is Rich Media large image available for direct sponsored content? And the answer is yes. We have recently launched rich media or large images for direct sponsored content. However, you would need to switch over to the new Campaign Manager, which we also recently launched, in order to access this feature. And just to plug, we are retiring the old Campaign Manager in the next month or so. So I would highly recommend that you check out the new Campaign Manager experience.
We have a question from Kimberly. The use of a meme brings up a good topic. I feel like we're always programmed to speak to the applicable audience, Facebook versus LinkedIn versus Twitter, etc. And so what are the benefits or risks of going a little out of the box on the platform? Well, the benefit is if it works really, really well. There is so much serious content on LinkedIn that putting something lighthearted into the feed, as long as it is still professionally relevant, tends to blow up. So when we first launched Sponsored Updates a couple of years ago, Mercedes-Benz for Halloween took one of their coupes and turned it into a Batmobile. It did extremely well. Intel IT Center will, on a weekly basis, put some kind of IT cartoon or CIO cartoon into their Sponsored Updates campaign, and those tend to do very, very well also. I think that the thing to think about when it comes to LinkedIn specifically is, yeah, it's a professional mindset, but professionals are people too, and we all need that humor break in the middle of a busy day. And so as long as it is still professionally relevant and not something that you would just never find on LinkedIn, it's a good rule of thumb is to test it out and see if it works for you and your brand. And it has to be authentic too. If you have a really, really serious brand, it might be really hard to get something a little bit more lighthearted into the feed. It has to be kind of part of your brand guidelines and something that you're used to doing.
So Ole had a follow-up question about dark posting and relevancy score, and the question was, the click-through rate for dark posts doesn't exist at the point in time for bidding, right? And the answer is it actually does. At the very beginning when you create that content, we actually take a look at the similar content you've created for that audience, et cetera, to figure out how your content may perform. But as you win bids, we start seeing how your click-through rate is developing over time, and we will adjust the relevancy score based on the actual performance of the piece of content. And that all actually holds true for Sponsored Updates as well. We don't use if it has been running organically on your company page for a while, we do not use that as part of our relevancy score. This is a new audience, so we have a new way of determining the relevancy for the new audience.
And then from Charles, he asked, are you at all concerned with clearing rights to the content or images used in the memes? It's a totally valid question. The general rule of thumb the advice that I give to companies is make sure that you have an accessible database of licensed images, whether that's proprietary images from your in-house creative team or using a licensing service. That's the best way to put images into the feed that are not going to get you in trouble later, because you know that you have rights to those. And then if you want to do something more lighthearted like a meme, there are meme generators online where you can upload your own image and create a meme out of it and not publish it and that kind of a thing. I think for the example that we used, it's such a commonly used meme that's available in all of the different meme generating tools. I personally wouldn't be concerned about it as a brand, but it's a good question to bring up, and the use of licensed or proprietary images is always the best practice no matter what.
And the next question is about, can you use rich media, large images, and organic updates? And the answer is yes. You will see a little upload button when you're sharing, and you can use that small icon to upload images that are larger.
And then from Carol, are there companies in the entertainment media space, TV, internet, radio, mag publishing, who can be considered best in class? Yes, absolutely. Harvard Business Review and Forbes are both pretty consistently in our list of top content marketers on LinkedIn, just based on global content marketing score, meaning they see a really, really high volume of engagement on their content on a very regular basis. Now, these make sense, right, because they're business publishers, so they have a lot of business content, but they're both just doing a really good job of using a pay, own, and earn strategy to get that content in front of their audience on an always-on regular basis. And then in terms of entertainment media, we have had a number of examples from non-business publishers in the past that have done a good job. I mean, years ago we had Showtime premiere Nurse Jackie through an ad program on LinkedIn. We had Taken3 ran a showcase page and a sponsored updates campaign specifically targeted to LinkedIn professionals, and it featured Liam Neeson, and that did really well. We had The Butler, the movie, being promoted through a showcase page on LinkedIn a while back. So there are a number of examples from the entertainment media space. They tend to be more campaign focused, as media entertainment does, but if you want just a publisher that is doing a really good job of continuously getting relevant content into the feed, Forbes and HBR are two really good examples.
So the other question was around, from Sarah, how do we learn the specs for images? I believe you said there would be a link. So the presentation that we will be sharing actually has a hyperlink for that, but let me also reiterate that in case you can write it down. It's adspecs.liasset.com.
I see a question in here from Karine. Who are some standout players in the global development space? If you could be a little bit more specific on what global development refers to, what your company does, or some competitors, I could probably give you some examples. From a business services perspective, a lot of the consulting firms are starting to do really good things on LinkedIn, so PricewaterhouseCoopers is a good example. If I could get a better sense of what global development refers to, maybe I could give you some more specific examples as well.
And just a quick question we had from Ole again about language preference targeting. So we do not offer that for sponsored updates. The closest you would be is going by country, state, city, town, etc.
Oh, sorry. I do believe I said language is available in both organic and sponsored, so that was my mistake. Just geo for sponsored then. I'm doing a quick look through the questions. I'm not seeing anything else come through yet that we haven't answered, but you can always repost it if, oh, Kimberly did ask if the presentation will be on SlideShare, and yes, it will be after the live event, in case anybody else is wondering that as well. But if there's anything else that is coming through from a questions perspective, we still have 15 minutes left in the webcast time slot. We can also monitor Twitter using the hashtag LinkedIn content afterwards if anything else comes up.
I have a quick question from Noah, and the question was, maybe this is a tough question. How proven is sponsored updates? How long has this program been developed with LinkedIn? And are there specific case studies where, well, I think it's getting cut off, but I think the question is, are there case studies? So sponsored updates has been around for over 2 years now for LinkedIn, and it is, I would say, our fastest growing product on LinkedIn. So, you know, I would say that it's been fairly successful, and the general click-through rates we're seeing are way above what other advertisers are seeing with, you know, display products. So it receives great engagement rate. And for case studies, we have a ton of case studies if you go to marketing.linkedin.com to see lead gen specific case studies, branding specific case studies, thought leadership, or depending on what industry that you're looking to dig into.
And then Kimberly said, are there any new ideas on where to source content? I'm always looking for new ideas from the experts. Yes. So SlideShare is one of the LinkedIn properties, and every single company has professionals within it that are producing PowerPoint presentations or keynote presentations. Now, not all of them are going to be, you know, beautifully designed, but here at LinkedIn, sometimes we'll take, for example, something that I've done just for one of my speaking engagements, and we'll send it to our design team, and then it'll turn it into an ebook like this one. So you have, within an organization, you have experts within your company, and they're producing content, and the key is just understanding who your social media mavens are and who your content producers are, and then repurposing that content for your distribution efforts. So The LinkedIn publishing platform is a really good example of that. I often meet with companies and give them insights into who within their organization is using the publishing platform. And they don't know that they have some really great writers that are writing long-form content or middleweight content on LinkedIn using the publishing platform. And a lot of times it's on brand, and companies can very easily just kind of go to that employee and say, can we put this into our company page? And that's free content. Overheard at Marriott is a great showcase page to look at if they're looking for brands that are doing this on a continuous basis. And I do believe they're, kind of putting together a proactive strategy around this and encouraging their employees to write about their own travel experiences. But getting your employees to be your content generators is increasingly a way that companies are finding volume in addition to quality content. And then another opportunity is through licensing. So a company like NewsCred, where you can get software licenses or content licenses through their software platform, is a very easy way to kind of scale. And the great thing about licensing is you can actually repurpose the entire long-form article on your own property and have the rights to do that. So you're not losing the traffic, but you are getting great third-party content and onto your own web properties at a much more affordable rate.
Awesome. I think that concludes the number of questions we received. So it might be a good time to wrap it up and give you guys back 10 minutes. And in this 10 minutes, we would appreciate if you could go in and fill out our survey. That's really what helps us make these webinars more appropriate for you guys and get ideas on what the next webinars should be all about. So thank you so much for your time, and please give us feedback.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.